Um, Welcome to the Public Safety Commission meeting for, we're in June now, wow.
Crazy.
Call the meeting to order at 7:05. We have a quorum with Commissioner Nava, Commissioner Gentini, and Commissioner Cruz. So first thing I need to do is make a motion. Okay.
Let's see if it'll pass.
Oh, you need one? Need a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
I'll move to approve the agenda as it is.
If there's no changes. Okay, well, I got a motion from Phil.
I'll second.
And second from Judy. So the motion, agenda is approved. Sorry. Let's see.
Public comment, just a question.
I'm going into public comment right now.
Oh, but on your agenda.
Yeah, so we're going into public input right now.
So he can give public comment on the motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So I know this is, I'm used to formal meetings, but basically, you have one thing, I think it's item 6, and you might want to note that you're not going to approve the minutes, because if I understand it, they're not available to be approved.
Correct.
So, but you might wish to modify your agenda so you're not approving the minutes that you can't approve. That's just a thought.
You can go to the table it.
Yeah, we're gonna table that as this item 4.
Sure, then this time, normally you say, well, we're tabling that, just acknowledge that you're changing your agenda to table that.
Okay. Well, thanks for keeping me straight.
No, I'm not trying.
So we didn't get the minutes out this time, so we will be modifying the agenda to table that till next time. We'll make the approval for the minutes for May at our next meeting. So, okay. So now we're going to public input. Public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope and authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. So the commission may provide up to 15 minutes for public comment session to assure that each individual presentation is heard. The commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time that the commission takes up each specific agenda item. So at this time, I'll open public comment. Ken.
Ken Sawatsky, the minutes probably reflect, I'm going to comment on the Blue Lake levee. We have a very important thing that protects the city and the infrastructure. And unfortunately, it's been kind of ignored majorly. I put the county on notice personally that if their levee fails up there in Blue Lake, this section of Blue Lake goes down the river, our sewer treatment plant and everything goes down the river, that they will be held responsible. So I worked with Tom Madsen, hopefully he's going to do some maintenance that needs to be done. This is a report that Mandy gave to me. You may wish to get this, because if you're looking at public safety, this is probably the biggest problem we may have. And a little bit of instruction right down here past what used to be Blue Lake Power, Ultra Power, the Peppies where the trail goes, the levee stops. And I was down here many years ago, and I had every single dump truck, Kernan Construction, 3 excavators, and we were running all night to try and put a temporary levee in there. And we were dumping rock in the river and we were just sucking downstream. Fortunately, Mother Nature was good to us. About 3 in the morning, I shut the crews down because I was designated to run these because I'm in construction. And so anyway, we were lucky. But if that storm had continued to be, we wouldn't have a sewer treatment plant. The water would have fed back up in here. So I really, hopefully, if you're looking at something important to address as far as public safety, you may wish to really delve into this, because my cut line for water, if we're lucky, it's right here. Everything down there is underwater. And I just hate to see that happen, because what do we do without a sewer treatment plant? What do we do without our infrastructure? What do we do without our corp yard? And it's a really important issue. So I wanted to bring that to you. It's an interesting study. I haven't read it all. I just executive summary stuff, but I highly recommend you looking at that. And then as far as other public safety things, I brought it to the attention, and I could be told wrong, but this meeting room needs to have how many people can be in the building. It's an assembly hall, and it should be posted, I believe, and I've asked multiple people to correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to know how many people can be in here. and then you have to have the fire marshal here and other things if you're not. So thank you for the opportunity to speak up. Lastly, I have a thing, older buildings are sometimes grandfathered in, such as Pratt Hall. Sprinkler systems may be warranted for that particular project. We can get a grant to put those in. It's a safety item, and again, that's my last of my three topics I'd like to speak on.
Great, thank you. All right, any other public comment? All right, let's move on to, well, we're not gonna do item number 4, that's gonna be tabled to future agenda items, so. Finding item number 5, discussion and recommendation on the Blue Lake Dog Ordinance, revision and leash law regulations.
Can I say something about
Sure.
that? I was a little concerned in viewing the last city council meeting that at least one council member was prepared to go on without our recommendation or our input. It's just, we were tasked as a subcommittee to find this information out and present it to the city council, and that was the plan. But in the future, if any issue is kicked down to a commission or a subcommittee, it'd be great if could kind of hold off. Our findings may be the same as what the council members were trying to push, but it'd just be nice to be heard since we went to the effort to present it and were asked to. That's all.
So how do you want us to present this, Mandy? And do you want us all to just make a vote on how we feel, or? I mean,
Well, I
is
don't,
that what we
you
think?
guys had an ad hoc, so you should probably present the findings or recommendations of your ad hoc as a group.
I could do Stephanie's for her since she's not here. She sent it to me. Do you want to go with what you
Sure.
found out first?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you have a copy of this?
I didn't print yours. I can get it really quick. I'll go ahead while you're looking for that. Sure. Present what Stephanie found. So what we did was we formed a subcommittee so that we can work together without violating the Brown Act. And so Stephanie and Phil went and researched some of the local communities, what they're doing with their leash laws and what they have in place. And this is what they found. So Stephanie found that Arcata does have a lot of language. She gave me a website to look at, but the most notable part of it was whether or not a dog is licensed under this article, it shall be unlawful for any owner or person in charge of or in control of any dog to suffer or permit a dog to be in a city unless the dog is securely enclosed in a pen, fenced yard, or other enclosure, or securely tethered or on a leash. So, in this, of course, this session doesn't apply to any official city of Arcata police dogs or anything like that. But the city of Trinidad, she said that basically they put a notice out on March 30th, I'm sorry, a letter to the community on their changes. So it says, "Dear city residents and water customers, due to the recent dog attacks, the city is reinforcing that all dogs must be on a leash in the city. The city is posting signs to the public, sending letters to residents, and posting signage to remind people of the leash law. We expect landlords to make sure that their tenants are aware and abide by the law. Anyone in the city witnesses bad dog behaviors, it should be reported to the city offices. And in case of an attack, call 911. All dogs must be licensed by the owners or tenants in the city. Licensing can be done in the town hall. Leash law will be enforced and subject to fines ranging of $100 to $500. In addition to their newly formed contract with the sheriff, they're adding, or not with the sheriff, not newly formed, but their contract with the sheriff, and they're adding services with Pacific Coast Security and a community ambassador program, which can assist in informing the public, reporting incidents, and enforcing leash laws. So dogs off premises must be under the control of the owner or other responsible person, either by leash, cord, or chain, or other physical restraint. The city loves dogs but does not want any other dog attacks, so we must make all dogs, large, small, and their owners and members of the public feel safe. So basically, her recommendation, Stephanie's, was to go forward with the leash law.
Okay, I was tasked with looking at leash law policies in Ferndale and McKinleyville. McKinleyville, I couldn't find a contact. Ferndale, I was managed to track down Jay Parrish, who was the Ferndale city manager. He said there is an existing leash law in the books requiring a leash not to exceed 8 feet in all areas of the incorporated city, except in the owner's yard. He could only recall one off-leash incident involving injury in the past 17 years. The population of Ferndale is around 1,402. And the Ferndale dog ordinance I attached to the email. I guess I can distribute that if anybody's interested. It's pretty straightforward. It's a couple of paragraphs. I myself am in favor of a leash law in Blue Lake. I think it would be in the best interest of the community. I understand the policy may not be universally adhered to and difficult to enforce, but in the case of a dog bite or attack, having an ordinance on the books may help in a victim's civil action. I feel it would establish a clear guideline for people and their pets in public.
That is what we found. I'm not sure how we want to present this.
Do you guys have any discussion? Because Judy wasn't part of that. I don't know if Judy had any questions or anything.
How do you feel we should go forward?
My bad dogs. We probably should have a leash law, because we have had some incidents recently in town. And I'd love to keep the dogs out of trash. So, yeah, we should probably move forward with one.
I think there's issues as far as how wide it's enforced. I don't know where the levee, where the Blue Lake kind of city ends, but maybe signage as you enter back through the city, leash law, ordinance number, whatever, enforced.
Yeah, but I will need some sort of signage because it's gonna be new. Probably a mailing to all the water customers as well, like the other,
I would like to,
because that's the best way to get it out to everyone in
yeah,
town. For renters, maybe renters might not get it because the landlord might get the water bill, so we gotta find a way to make sure everyone gets notified of it somehow. Because I imagine the city's gonna impose fines, for bad dogs, so we have to make sure everyone knows about it somehow first.
I would also like to go forward with a leash law. Of course, if we can we exclude the dog park and the levees?
Right.
Yeah,
Or would it be wise to exclude the levees? I mean.
Well, I mean, you
still
can only enforce in your own jurisdiction. So if it's not within the city's jurisdiction, then it would revert over to the county's jurisdiction.
If the levies.
is it levy
And-
county?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Portion
Okay,
of it.
so
So
the
we
levy
can't,
would
we
be
have no
excluded.
control over what they do on the levy.
Then I think it's unanimous that the commission is recommending a leash law.
And do you guys have any recommendations on, did you look at any structures for fines or anything? Because it doesn't do any good to have a law without any enforceability or any type of penalty structures.
I didn't go forward with anything like
So
that.
that could be recommended, just that the council
Excuse me.
could.
I had
I like the way
recommended to
that-
Jason that,
I like the way that Trinidad has theirs structured. It's very, they're saying fines from $100 to $500.
first offense, second offense.
Excuse me, the allergy is really bad today. And seeing as we might be, depending on how it goes with Pacific Coast Security, that might be another avenue for us to use as enforcement in the sheriff's department. But
I had mentioned earlier, we probably need a additional penalty for unlicensed dogs, because that's an incentive to get people to come license their dogs too, which we need to have done so that we know whose dog is the one's being bad, I guess, so.
So, do you want us to get a little more detailed with our presentation to city council on this, or? I didn't know we were,
Yeah, I mean, I
Structuring.
think what you've done in the past is, you could come to city council and present your recommendation, and then the council then decides at that point how they want to move forward. So they could direct staff, or they could direct their legal team to do additional research, or come up with a penalty structure or something that would fit within our municipal code for enforceability. So I don't think that it's going to be a problem to do that. There's plenty of use laws on the books that we would model after, so.
Okay.
But
Is
I would recommend,
$100 really a standard fine for a off-leash dog?
I don't know.
I mean, it's,
That seems like a lot if it's not attacking, so I don't know. Is there ways to make
First
it?
time I would go less, and then ramp it up.
Yeah, $100 seems like a lot, especially if it's just like, oh, your dog's off the leash. It's not doing
Sure.
anything bad, but it's just
Well,
off the
I
leash.
think that's
Like,
where you start to run into the problem, though, of who makes that decision.
Right.
You know, and
How
then
would
you,
it be? What's bad?
so once you have, something on the books, it has to be enforceable, and it has to be, especially with law enforcement, being able to look at a situation if there's an enforceability issue, or whoever is going to enforce, your, whatever we come up with in the code. It can't be like, well, but that dog's really nice.
Right.
If it's not on leash, it's subject to the leash law. So, I mean, you can't make those distinctions
I
based
think
upon
a
temperament.
lot of the corrective action will be after something happens. Looking back and say, well, how did the dog get bit? Because yours was off the leash, and the fine will be incorporated kind of after the fact. I mean, nobody's gonna walk around saying, oh, Pee-wee's off his leash. It might.
You might.
No,
That's-
are you sure?
You know what I mean? So
Are you positive?
It seems to me like, I didn't take it into account. But, yeah, I think the sliding scale,
like I said, $100 to $500 is a little steep, I believe,
Mhm.
too. I would think we would start lower, but I'll make a presentation at the next city council meeting on what we have found. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes, I have an extremely good working relationship with the Humboldt County Dog Pound there. They had a sale on dogs, and this is one of my favorite. You can bail them out. So I go down there and I sometimes spend $500 getting their dogs who are not adoptable, and so somebody can come in and have them. So I had a great conversation with her the other day regarding how we sync up with the county, and I consider her a friend, and I think it's likewise. So anyway, her comments were, Blue Lake is in really good stead because our basic laws for animal enforcement are paralleled with the counties. City of Trinidad's are not. So Eli's another friend of mine, that is the city manager up there in Trinidad. And so when I talked to Eli about this, they'll probably have to redo their ordinance, but the basic things you're talking about as far as the fine and everything probably are parallel. And so I highly recommend, if you have time, go up to the animal shelter. You don't have to bail out a dog. I bail out most of them. But anyway, just to go and talk to them. Now, one thing, and I strongly understand you're feeling like you're feeling like you're not being listened to by the council and they're doing things without you. I don't perceive that to be true. What I perceive to be true is that the addressing of just the leash was not what the council wanted us to address or you to address. They wanted you to go into more than just the leash law. So you were only given that to deal with. Historically, and I've been here for many years, grew up on Buckley Road up there, came here in 59 or 60. Anyway, you used to have very functional control of your animals down, and it's actually permitted specifically down in your courtyard. You would have the people, and usually the people who worked were on call to do your sewer treatment, making sure that because somebody's on call 24/7, 365. Usually those were the people, and I don't know whether they were given a quote unquote bounty or an extra $1 an hour to be dog catchers. And they would get trained by up there, and then we'd have 2 little kennels down here. Instead of us having to go to the expense of having them off to the county thing, which is expensive, they would be there. Usually they knew who the dogs were, they call the owner, come down and pay your $20 fine and bail your dog out. So that sends a message, and also then they have to get them licensed, they have to get the shots. The biggest thing we have a fear of, who's a dog owner, and I have my dogs, they would be bit by a dog that would not have the correct shots and could die from that. So I think strongly support anything of this, go and get them as many licensing. I don't know, Mandy could tell you maybe half the dogs out there are actually licensed. This will enable you to have a source of funds. She said it doesn't even break even, but maybe if we have enough people paying their licenses on an ongoing basis, we can break even. And then regarding your animal guys who could be trained to do this, I strongly support you talking about that and getting involved with that. Go up and talk to the lady up there. This is, who I talk to experts on things. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on the dog issue. Really appreciate you addressing that and taking your time, to go through and check into things like Ferndale and stuff like that. So, thank you.
I think I have a little something to say.
Go ahead.
So I'm kind of garnering from what Kent said. I apologize for missing the beginning of the meeting, but, my name's Elise Scafani. I am on the city council. And at the last council meeting, I suggested that we might begin to draft a leash law and be working parallel with you guys as opposed to, waiting a longer time. So I apologize for any misconception or misunderstanding or offense that may have been taken from that. My thinking was that we had been working so long on this issue and it was taking a long time, and I was trying to speed it up a bit, which may or may not have been the right way to go at it. So definitely appreciating your work and hoping to get more help from you in the enforcement areas and that sort of thing. So thanks.
Okay, anybody else on this issue? All right, so I'll present at the next city council meeting our findings. And we'll move on to item number 6, Community Safety and Preparedness Program Update.
Yeah, so this is the program that Andrew and I have been trying to kick off. And it looks like we are going to work for the end of June, I think June 25th, if he has availability to do our first community preparedness.
It's going to be Sundays, right?
Yeah, we were calling them safety Sundays. So we just need to double check for availability for Andrew, his staff, facility. I think I'm free. So I think the first one is a basic preparedness program. And so he's got a whole program already established with all the training modules and everything. So it seems like a good one to start as our first program. So we're going to shoot for June 25th, and we will get something out to the community as soon as we can verify that those dates work for everyone. It's hard. This time of year is hard, and then we go into wildfire season, and that gets hard, and earthquake season, and that gets hard. So it's been tough to try and get those resources in place. So.
But this will be the first one we're kicking off, and we'll continue to do them every.
Yeah, the goal was to do a once a month preparedness training, whether it's CPR or how to build a home preparedness kit, or whatever we could come up with. But like I said, we just kept running into those issues of all the OES staff was pulled out because there was earthquakes, and then there was flooding, and then it just seemed to keep going. So we're going to shoot for June 25th and see if we can pull this off.
Okay. This will be at the fire hall?
Yes. Yeah. So staff will make sure there's advertisement and outreach as soon as we establish those dates.
All right, is there any public comment on this item?
If you want, I'll call Billy Hansel and see if OES can show up for you.
Yeah, we don't need the butler.
You don't need any help with that?
No,
Okay.
we're good. We got it under control.
Great.
All right, so item number 7, we don't have Andrew Bozier here. He had some family issues, so he's not going to make it to talk about the smoke detector giveaway program. that he wanted to do in the town. So we will table that till the next meeting. He said he'd be able to make that. So it'll be a future agenda item. Item number 8, security patrol discussion. How is that going?
Yeah, so this is going to start to be a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. The sheriff is proposing a really substantial increase to our contract. I believe it's well beyond our capacity to facilitate. And so we're going to need to look at some options. Trinidad received the same call for the increase. It's not quite double, but it's getting close to what we currently have. So it's definitely not sustainable or manageable for us at this point. But the security patrol program seems like it could be very, very beneficial to the city. It's something that's affordable, and then it allows us the capacity also to facilitate patrols, times, locations, dates. So it puts us more in control of that, of those, just to match what our needs are. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. More so than where we're at now with the sheriff, where we're not getting dedicated patrols. We don't have dedicated deputies anymore. So we are just in kind of the rotation queue. So that letter just came a couple of days ago, and there's some conversations starting to take place about those costs and what those costs include, why they are so substantial, and then what our options might be if we were able to change up our service model. So Captain Quinnell is asking some of those questions. I'm going to be reaching out to the CAO as well, and then also, to Sheriff Hansel to just kind of talk about where these increases are coming from and what our future looks like with the sheriff. So I anticipate bringing more of that back. The Public Safety Commission has always been a part of those discussions and contract negotiations. So it's very much in your purview to participate in that and to play a role. I mean, it's up to the council to make the final decision on budgets and contracts and things, but you guys really are kind of the sounding board for looking at options and kind of delving into that a little bit further. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. We've tried, engaging the community in different options, but at this point, did they tell you? Have you worked out the minimum that we have to pay them, or you guys?
No, and that was my question: was what's the base that we would have to pay, and what those services look like? I mean,
we still have to pay them something.
We have to pay them something because we need access. You have to have access to the sheriff's services. You need major crimes, you need detectives, you need jail, you need transport. You need all those things. But my question is, what aspect of the current contract is actually, because they equate our contract to the cost of a deputy. So basically, our current contract is supposed to be equivalent to a full-time deputy, and that's just kind of how they break it down, even though we're not receiving those services with a dedicated deputy. But that's kind of, like I said, that's kind of how they manage their costs and allocate those resources. Okay. So thinking about what is that base level, and that'll be the same question that Trinidad's asking as well. So.
Okay. Any public comment on security patrol? Ken.
So I had the pleasure of talking to Eli over in Trinidad when he first came out with the idea, and I brought that to Mandy. She said she tried to contact her, they didn't get back a hold of her or something. But Eli's kind of our sister. I mean, Trinidad's our sister city in many ways. We have many things the same. And I go back to my ability to talk to Billy Hansel, which I do probably weekly. And of course, he's told me in advance, he said, you're not going to be able to afford this, most likely, because their costs are going through the roof from health care, PERS, everything, as we're all aware, painfully aware, is going through the roof. So when I talked to Eli, if I recall right, Mandy could correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're getting this for like $45 an hour, and we can, it's great, you can have them when you need them. It's not gonna be somebody who's gonna show up at the will of the sheriff, and it seemed to be the best fit. So I talked to Billy, I said, Billy, I said, what do you think of this guy? He says he's the real deal. He hires mostly ex-CHP, sheriffs, and police people, the older retired guys, so we're not stuck with Barney Fifes, you know, guys who know how to deal with people and do good policing. So I'm optimistic it's well worth a try, and I strongly encourage you to do that. If any of you ever wish to reach out to the staff over there, Eli's great to deal with, and he can tell you exactly. Right, I watch their meetings and attend virtually sometimes when they're meeting. So strongly support moving in that direction. We can't afford our law enforcement. Thank goodness we don't have Mr. Gunderson here anymore. I don't know how many of you were around when we had that debacle. But anyway, working with Billy, I think he understands that we do need the coroner, like Penny said, we do need access to. So I can, without being asked, whenever I be talking to Billy, see what minimum we can get as far as, to get our services, whatever we can do to help us. They're being defunded. Measure Z is going in the toilet. All their funding is getting really rough. So it's kind of a little bit of a give and take with the sheriff and see what he's willing to do, since we never got anything out of Measure Z. We never got a penny out of that. We didn't have much tax base, but we should have got something. So anyway, it's all about politics and communicating, and I appreciate you guys, looking into this and taking your time. So.
Any other public comment?
I have questions. I don't know if
Okay.
you want to try to answer any questions. So if we switched over to the private security, is there any guesstimate on how many hours a month we would be contracting, or a base budget kind of thing for that, or how that could? I mean, I guess that means that the sheriff is not coming through here anymore at all, or maybe we don't know that yet. So I guess there's just a whole lot of details about all this that I'm hoping are gonna be able to be known.
I mean, they would still have to come out. We would still be paying for sheriff services at some level. They would still have to come out if you call them,
Right.
or call 911 or whatever. But I think we're still working out the details of.
I think there was a pilot program in Trinidad we were going to try and mirror, but all that information hasn't come back yet.
Right.
We had a presentation a couple meetings back from the security company. It went pretty well.
I watched most of that on video.
But I don't know if have you guys talked numbers yet at all?
No, so we haven't got that deep into it because we knew this increase was going to be coming from the sheriff, and we wanted to see what those numbers look like first and see where we negotiate our budget. I've talked to Jean about, what are the opportunities, and it does make sense if for Trinidad and Blue Lake to increase the use of a security patrol, but we both will also need base services from the sheriff, so we're not really sure. So we were kind of waiting to see what their anticipated increases were going to be. I was very shocked at the increase proposal. I was not prepared. I knew it was going to be substantial, but I don't think that that level of increase to just.
For the service
Yeah.
we get now.
No.
I would love us to compare, and see what we're gonna pay, what we need to pay for the sheriff.
Yeah,
Make sure
it
we're
really comes
getting
down to
services.
whether they're willing to provide a base level service, what that cost would be, and then we would backfill with security patrol is what my thoughts would be. I don't think that there's any value to maintaining a deputy patrol because we're not getting it. And even if we are getting it, it's not at the times that we need it. It's not responsive or reflective of our needs.
We get somebody on their way to Willow Creek that
Right.
just comes through town,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
You may consider bundling with Eli also as far as a package. This guy's gonna take some time to bring his crew up, because he's gonna have two major contracts. It's not gonna happen instantly.
We gotta,
That's what I was wondering.
we
about
gotta
staffing
we gotta keep
also.
on track. So, when we take up items, we can't go back and forth, so. On public comment.
Thank you.
Is there any more comment on this?
Do we share the tribal police with the casino at all?
No. Do they even have any police anymore? I think they
You got a vehicle.
have a vehicle, yeah. But they don't have their deputy anymore that they had that was cross-deputized, so they don't think they can do any services for us. Okay. Well, we'll visit this at our next meeting, see if there's any updates on the security patrol. I think we've discussed it before. I think we're all kind of in favor of going ahead with that. All right, item number 9, tabletop exercise, discussion and update.
Yeah, so this is back on me. Since the last time we talked, I've just continued some conversations with Ryan at OES about what their resources are. So he's been putting together, he's got some mock exercises that he was gonna kind of look through and see what he could kind of pull together for Blue Lake. They had some big trainings that were going on, so he wanted to get through some of that and then free up a little bit of time. So we're just kind of waiting at this point for Ryan to kind of help us kind of put together the whole scenario. I'd like to have someone from OES be the moderator of that and run that scenario for us so that we can all participate. So I think the earthquake scenarios is great. He felt good about that. We can have Humboldt Bay Water District as well be a participant, the school, the fire department, the city, our CERT team, Red Cross, and then OES will kind of help put all of it together. So I'm just kind of still working with Ryan on how to pull all of those resources together and kind of the overall scenario.
Do we know maybe in the fall?
I feel like the fall's a better time. Summer's just really hard. OES is, they don't have their EOC now because there's nothing going on. So they're down to like one guy. So even I know I was on the animal response team, and they're even talking about doing away with that just because of their resources being so limited. So it's kind of a one-man show right now.
Okay.
Do public comment.
Okay. Is there any public comment on a tabletop exercise?
I think you're gonna find OES is gonna be more reactive rather than proactive because of the budget constraints they're having there. I wouldn't be overly optimistic, especially unless we include OES as part of our contract with the sheriff's department as far as having their participation. So that's just everything's winding down. I think the sheriff's looking at maybe cutting back 80 deputies, and he's gonna have a hard time funding much more than his court system and the things that are required for that in the jail. So that's just a little bit as far as optimism regarding participation with the county there.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right. We'll move on to public safety work plan discussion. Is there anything on here that you guys feel like we need to pull a focus on, or we got the tabletop, we just talked about the tabletop exercise. We're coming into wildfire season, so maybe we should do some PSAs to the community. Make sure your gutters are clean, that kind of thing. Your defensible space.
I think, was Stephanie, did she provide you guys a list of the PSAs?
No.
She was working on that. I haven't received it.
Okay. I'll make sure to check in with her. And as far as that, I think that's all we have left. This one. Are we still working with the Go Slow campaign, or is that still in the Arts and Heritage Commission for the crosswalks?
Yeah, they have been talking about ways to do some neighborhood engagement using art to encourage people to drive drive slower in neighborhoods and through town. So it is still on their radar to kind of come up with some type of campaign.
All right. All right, I think that's all we had on public safety work plan. Is there any public comment on our work plan?
You did mention, I really strongly support your fuels reductions that we get during Green Waste Days. That's fantastic. We do have some rather large-sized parcels out here that possibly could use fuel reductions, and they've set back from the house and things. So I don't know if we have a fire safe council, other areas have fire safe council in their area. They put together, get funding to reduce the fuels that would be for combustion should the inevitable happen. So I don't know if that's just something you want to reach out to and check into the fire safe council. I think that's with the county also.
Okay. All right, any other public comment? All right, so we're gonna move on, item number 11, agency check-in. We don't have a representative from the Sheriff's Department today, it's his day off. We did get we didn't get any numbers on that. They normally give us, well, we have patrol stats. Did you guys get those earlier in the month?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think I did get those.
We got them a couple weeks ago, and then other than that, sometimes they provide us with stats of they break down the calls by, I guess, area, card thefts, that kind of stuff. But we don't have anything from Sheriff today. As far as Blue Lake Fire District, there was really nothing going on. Chief Panuku just wanted to stress that we are recruiting. We need some able-bodied people that are willing to help their community. We've been low on numbers for a while, so if you guys know anybody, it's got to be 18 and older and pass a drug test. So there you go. I don't know. We're working
I'm too old. I did wish to mention that there are some of us, and we can provide affordable housing for these younger people who want to be in here. I have a project I wish to work with the city on to get them here and have them have affordable housing so they will stay here and be right here. So there are those of us who strongly support, because we understand how important our volunteer fire department is. It's exceptional. What happened in Arcata, they went to professionals, and their cost is through the roof. So those of us who benefit, and great shout out and thank you to the volunteer fire department, because we're able to keep our insurance rates down, without going to that level. So
we are working with called the Redwoods, right? Or is that, no, the Humboldt State Fire Science Program? With some of their students.
great.
We have,
Let's
we
get
have
them to
2
live here
rooms
and be here.
that we need housing for them, yeah. Okay. Any public comment on agency check-in? All right, so we'll move on to reports from liaison and staff. We have a liaison, don't we?
I believe it's Councilmember Edgar.
Yes, it is.
Chris Embry.
I could step in with just one little piece of something. I'm working with the Rancheria to co-sponsor a vaccination clinic for dogs, and it'll be microchipping, vaccinations, possibly some other services, and then if staff from the city is available for that event, then there'll be a dog licensing piece to that as well. So hopefully that'll be coming up. It's probably not going to happen in time for the dog licensing deadline, but because we just started working on that after the last council meeting, but hopefully it'll happen in the next month or two.
Even if we can get them to license late.
Yeah, maybe we can waive a late fee or something if they come to that
Yeah,
event.
if they come to that, yeah, and then at least we know where they are for next year to bug them for the life. And then at least we just know where the dogs are, so, yeah.
What do you got, Mandy?
Oh, well, school's coming to a close. That means we're gonna have more kids running around town. Days are getting longer, so we're gonna have more kids and families in the park and more people recreating. So our concerns, start to increase this time of year just for safety, trying to keep people traveling at a responsible speed through town. We've got paving going on now. We just started today with the Mercer Fraser project. It's going to be a long project. It's going to be noisy and it's going to be dusty, and but the end result is we're going to get some good paving. It's not going to pave everything, and it definitely won't, probably scratch the surface of our real needs, but I think it's going to be a good project. We were able to negotiate some additional paving with some of our street funding to try and help push those dollars further and take advantage of mobilization costs and material supply costs. So I think that'll be good. We're going to start having hopefully some sunny days. Thought today was going to be a sunny day, and then it wasn't, but we'll get more people at the river.
It's been packed down at the hatchery.
Yeah, it's already, people are just really excited to have a sunny day and spend it at the river, so.
Are they gonna be breaking ground on the bike park?
So we hope to break ground on the bike park probably the end of this month. I did just submit a grant to Clean California. I think it was $837,000 to do a full bike park, including paving the trails and making a connection for the pedestrian pathways to go to school. If we get funded, that'll take the bike park from the, basically the grassroots, we're out there moving dirt with our shovels and volunteer skid steers, to being able to use volunteer labor, but also have a contractor come in and put in a bathroom and lighting and the full pump track and the full dirt track, fencing, art installations, paving, landscaping, LID features, a whole host of things. So Caltrans, I feel like we have a good project. I think it'll be competitive. One of our issues that we lost points on last time is that we just don't have a real demonstrated need for litter and refuse abatement. So we don't have a lot of illegal dumping inside city limits. And that was, in the prior cycles, that was one of the big criteria thresholds that you needed to meet. And we just weren't able to really show that need. But they kind of changed things around this time. So I'm really hoping that, it's a use that transitions an old industrial setting into a recreation destination. And so they really, I think they'll look favorably upon it. So that's about all.
That's all you got? Okay, public comment?
So this is the first I've heard. I guess the council must have gone ahead and authorized this particular project sometime in the past or something. Anyway, strongly support, anything for the kids. I'm not after a leash law for the kids, but that some people feel that might be appropriate. But it is one of our biggest concerns, safety, is to take care of the kids, and whatever you guys can do to enable that to happen. It's a difficult one, to keep your kids under control for parents. So many kids are latchkey kids. Their parents have to work. They're out, and it's a big job for the city to take care of them. So strongly support anything you can keep those kids alive and safe.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment?
I have one other piece of something that might be of interest to the Public Safety Commission, and that is that we're working on an overhaul of the city website. And it didn't occur to me until now that we might have a page for public safety. We could create one, because I don't think we have a dedicated one at this point.
We had talked about it in the past, and at least having a dedicated email as well.
You mean email to reach out to you guys? Yeah, that would be great. And so I'll just put it in your court. I'm working with a web designer. And so if you guys want to click through the website and identify, just kind of be more familiar with maybe what's there and how or where you might want to weave some of your messages in, or have your own page, for various public safety messages, or how to reach out to commissioners, or.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if there's a spot on there to, for comments or ideas, suggestions, anything to send
Right.
us would be nice too.
Well, currently, the only way on the website for the public to reach out, to anybody, any of the volunteers is the city council, members.
Mm.
But there might be something else we could come up with, to list, all the different commission members and maybe, I don't know if we can, I don't know, maybe Mandy can, answer that question, but I suppose we can create, emails for all the different commission members, or maybe a general mailbox.
Or just
where
send one
you
to.
all got, you all got an email, we have like a single email address to address everybody kind of thing. So that might be nice.
Yeah, thank you.
If you think of anything, please let me know.
All right, we'll move to item 13, future agenda items. We have to approve the May, minutes for May. And I have the smoke detector program with Red Cross. Update on the security patrol program, and then a list of PSAs that we're going to do from Stephanie. And I'll touch base with her and see where she's at with that. Is there any other future agenda items? Kent.
I'd like to see the levy addressed sometime.
Okay.
And then I also mentioned the occupancy as far as safety goes, and there were 3 items in the spring, and possibly safety sprinkler system upgrades as far as long-term projects that the city has on it. It's a major facility out there. It's probably grandfathered in, but that doesn't mean it can't burn down and take kids with it or something. It's not aggressive. Those are my 3 suggestions. Maybe not all at once, maybe that's too much, but sometime in the future, I'd like to see those agendized and get some reports back from staff, what can be done to rectify potential problems.
All right. Thank you.
Which building are you? Sorry.
Skating, right?
Oh, the
Crash
skating.
hall.
Crash Hall, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very, very large building that would, if it was built today, would have to have total safety things built into it as far as sprinklers go. And it might preserve it rather than have it burned down. I know we're changing occupancy a little bit by putting a kitchen into the area, and that probably has amps and things. But anytime you change your occupancy, it's a good time to look at a sprinkler system as far as making sure we don't lose one of our greatest assets.
All right, thank you. We'll definitely check into that. Is there any other future agenda items? Anybody? Okay. Well, if there is no objections, we'll now take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Second by Phil. All right, hearing no objections, meeting's now adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
The public comment